Why thousands of people get viral infections from virus vaccines? So this is the type of question that I would actually love to question whoever wrote this in person. Because the first thing I would say, and so let me go over how, if somebody asks you this, obviously this is a quote antagonistic question. And so you push this. There's a number of ways of pushing people's buttons. One is to say viruses don't exist. Another is to say the government is a figment of our imagination and also therefore doesn't exist, just like viruses, very similar. And there's some other ones that really push people's buttons. So this apparently pushed this person's buttons. So I would ask them, so how do they make a live viral vaccine? In other words, also include in there how you know there's a live virus in the vaccine. Now, interestingly, 99% of the people, including doctors, won't know the answer to that question. So they're taking it on faith, or it's a belief system in their mind that they say this measles is live viral vaccine. This even from the most conventional and critical. Way they make it modified.
Tom, Trisha here. Can you adjust your mic? It's a little choppy at the moment.
How is that? Is that better?
Yes, that is better. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so how do you make a live viral vaccine? You take fluid from somebody who's sick, like with an alleged measles. You put that in a cell culture. Yeah. You add the antibiotics and the fetal bovine serum, the cell culture, monkey kidney cells breaks down, and you call that a live viral vaccine. At no point did you look for a virus. Can't emphasize that enough. At no point did you find a live virus in there. That's just a disproven hypothesis because we know that the cell culture breaks down without any, quote, virus in there. So that is cleaned up a little bit, but not much, and injected into people who are unwitting, knowing how this was made, including the pediatricians, and that's called a live viral vaccine. There's no live virus in there. So the premise of this question is incorrect. But injecting people with a brew of dead kidney cells and antibiotics and snot from person who is sick, which is then cultured over and over and over again, but the same ingredients time after time. They put trypsin, they put other stabilizing chemicals in there. Sometimes they all have a little bit different formula. And then they inject that into people, and surprise, surprise, they get sick. And then you claim that the virus made them sick. So no virus made them sick. Simply put, that injection of various types of poisons made them sick. Now, interestingly, every once in a while, you see somebody else who wasn't injected directly also get sick at the same time. And that's an interesting phenomenon. Like maybe they're putting out some of these poisons in their stool or their urine. And so you're handling the stool or the urine. And so you may get a dose of these same toxins. And so that might make you sick. But there is no possibility of transferring a live virus to another person because there was no live virus ever in a live viral vaccine. So the reason people get sick from vaccines is because they were poisoned. And sometimes through mechanisms which we don't even understand now, I would admit, other people around them seem to also have symptoms that couldn't possibly come from a virus, and we don't necessarily know why they came. And that has nothing to do with falsifying the claim that it was some transfer of some virus from the person you injected to other people, because there was no virus anywhere in this procedure. There's no virus injected into them. There's no virus excreted. There's no virus anywhere in this story. And if you disagree, you're going to have to show me at which step they proved that there was a virus. And so this is a good example of, because it's never actually been studied, of is it true that thousands of people get sick by being around people who were injected? I'm not sure that's even true. But if it is, it's never been actually looked at for why that actually happens. Is it some sort of bioresonance? Is it the excretion of toxins? Is it handling stool of a sick person and they're putting out things that make you sick? We actually don't know the answer to that. And I would just point out for the 100th time that knowing the answer to that question has no relevance for whether it's going back to saying, well, therefore it must be a virus. There is no virus in a live viral vaccine, period. That has been falsified. Whether anybody knows what the real explanation is irrelevant to that conversation or to that conclusion. Sorry. It's like saying, if you don't know who your real parents are, I don't believe you were adopted. And that's the kind of thing that's, if in fact that's a real phenomena, which I have my doubts, but I've seen people who have, say, claimed that. And interestingly, I haven't really looked at the history of those people, but my guess is there was something that happened that would be interesting to know about. But even then, we've never actually had any kind of study or investigation of why they got sick, how they got sick, or what happened to them. So obviously, I can't give you the answer to that. But again, it has no relevance to saying, to the question of whether there was a transfer of a virus from a vaccinated person to an unvaccinated person. That simply can't happen. If it's true, there's got to be another mechanism. Okay, final question, and this also has to do with our theme today, which is of keeping people to allowable boxes. What is my view of the Trump assassination sham? I mean, attempt. So obviously that's a loaded question. But here's how I would say that. So again, this is an example of most of the things in politics. So the normal thing is, so we have this government. Of course, everybody knows that we have to have a government, and the government everybody needs a government. The government is right and proper, and it just depends on what kind of government you have. And then there's these two parties, the Democrat and the Republicans, and they have very different views of life and what government is and what they should do, et cetera. And then you have some independent Green Party and socialists and Kennedy, and they have a very different view of things. And they think government should be doing this and not doing that, et cetera. So that's the box. And I would say that when you talk about the government, the real box is there's the box of people who believe the government is real and has the right to do things that individuals and groups of people would never do and don't even consider that they have the right to do it, like take away your property if you don't agree to send my child to a school or something like that. So most people would never do that, but somehow this mythical beast or supernatural beast called the government, they do have the right to do that. So with that, now we look at the so-called Trump assassination attempt. And I don't want to sit here and say,